Hey YouTube, long time no see. I'm back, Ninja Turtle, and I finally have a new video and a new custom. But just in case you missed out on the last couple videos, didn't watch them, whatever, you had no idea what I'm talking about, where I've been, why I haven't posted any videos in a while. The last video I posted was at the end of March. It is now the middle of June, and again, I'm finally back. What have I been doing? I took a gaming break, just a general break. I like to make a handful of customs and just take a break, and I wanted to play games because I don't play games when I'm making customs. So I intended on playing Breath of the Wild, and I did start it, but I lacked the motivation to keep going back to it. I will play it again one day, but it's going to be a really long time to finish it, so I didn't want to continue to hold up making customs while trying to play Breath of the Wild. So I moved on to Resident Evil 7. First time played it, finished it, and then played Resident Evil Village, which I finished it just at the end of May. So I've been working on customs ever since I finished that, so for the last 2 weeks, and here I am finally getting done this Proxima Midnight that I actually started way back in February, but I will get back to that a little bit later in the video as to why it took so long. But we will cover what I did, how I made this, so in case you are interested in making your own, not to say that this one is so perfect and beautiful, and I think she's beautiful, but you know, maybe you want to make your own and you want to know how I did this. That's what we're covering today. I won't go through like the specifics, but it's a Marvel Legends figure. You can kit bash it like I have, and like most of my figures, and you know, do your paint and do your work. Maybe yours will turn out even better than mine, but I'm letting you know the secrets right now, and let's go ahead and cover that. So Proxima Midnight. One, just in case you don't know who she is, Proxima Midnight is the big spear lady in Infinity War and a small feature in Avengers Endgame. The one that got killed by Scarlet Witch and Black Widow in Wakanda. They threw up in the sky and, you know, all that, whatever. So that was the movie version. This is the comic book version, which I by far prefer, and there is no Marvel Legend figure of her comic book. Heck, I don't even know if there's like a Marvel Select or a Hot Toys version of this at all. I have no idea. It would be nice. I've been waiting. She's my favorite character of the Black Order, and yeah, she just looks really freaking cool in the comic books. The movies, not so much, but for the most part, I normally start from the bottom to the top, but it's really not a whole lot to talk about down here because all of the feet, legs, knees, thighs, the hips, all of that come from one figure and one figure alone, and that is the Marvel Legends Valkyrie figure. And this entire body mold pretty much is the Thundra / Valkyrie figure, but I don't have a spare one of those around. But I do have a spare one, or just my own copy of the She-Hulk, which is the exact same body mold. So yeah, this is 100% the exact same as the Thundra. So one of the reasons I did start this and had it intended to be finished by like the middle or end of February, beginning of March or something like that. And what I started is I had a Thundra body mold, which she's like all orange, which again is the exact same thing as this, and I cracked it open because that's the only way you can get to the insides of these hips and stuff like that, so I can paint it. And I wanted to paint these the pins inside the hips there, the swivel part of that, so you can only really get in there unless you take it out. But even then, it's actually way too deep to paint. So I attempted to paint it, and I did paint one, so it was orange, and I painted it black. But once I put it to test and try to, you know, work it, you know, make sure it had the same articulation, paint rub was crazy. It was so super bad, and I thought, I was like, okay, well, guys, if you want to avoid paint rub, just buy a Valkyrie figure and you don't even have to paint it. You just use those legs and then just use that body is what the advice I would give you. But I actually used, again, I did end up buying a Valkyrie and then swapping the legs and putting those into the Thundra body. So this torso, this upper and lower torso, is all from the Thundra figure, but the lower legs, the thighs and stuff are from the Valkyrie. This is completely untouched, unhindered, nothing modified whatsoever in these legs. They're straight up from Valkyrie, but I put them on the Thundra body mold. Now, you could, if you really wanted to, just use the entire Thundra because she's already black anyway, as far as the color and most of the stuff. You would have to either rework that Valkyrie body to get rid of the belt that's on it and sand off or sculpt over or whatever you need to do to make it look more like this. Or you can do what I do and get a body like this that's, again, like Thundra with nothing on it and then sculpt on top of it. Now, one thing that is worth noting is that those Thundra and the Valkyrie bodies are really old. They're pretty affordable. They're not hard to find on eBay, but they're really old. Old in that they used old plastic and they have old body functions. Like they don't make legs like this anymore, and then the neck on it doesn't have a pivot, so it's just a ball spot there. You can't move her neck up and down or anything like that, which is really lame and really stinks. And one of the reasons why I probably will never work with this body mold again, because I want the neck articulation. There aren't that many female characters that are this tall anyway that I want to make figures for. I can only think of She-Hulk and then Avatar Kyoshi. And I already have some plans for using like the Hela body mold from MCU Hela for Kyoshi, but that's like not anytime soon. As far as She-Hulk goes, she has a new body mold that's different than this and much bulkier, which I do like, but I don't like it for making this She-Hulk, classic She-Hulk. So I have to figure that one out if I'm going to do like the Fantastic Four, She-Hulk and stuff like that. But that's a sidetrack. Anyway, back to Proxima here. So as far as the upper torso goes, again, this is all Thundra and just added this sculpt here. The reason why I was mentioning it's an older body mold, the older plastic is a lot different than this plastic, the more recent plastic. The plastic that you're more used to with the last couple of years of Marvel Legends. It's not so significantly different that it's like a whole nother planet, but it is different that it's just, it doesn't work the same way. It doesn't it doesn't take to paint, like the paint doesn't take to it very well, neither does glue for what it's worth. And even like ripping the hair off the head of these things was a pain in the butt. Like compared to newer Marvel Legends taking the hair off, the old hair on these older figures is legendarily difficult to remove. So a word of the wise, if you can get one of these She-Hulks, I know she was part of the A-Force 6-pack and kind of hard, you'd be better off using this and then maybe swapping the legs out again with the Valkyrie so you don't have to paint that part. But this plastic is more recently, newer plastic compared to the plastic on this Thundra body. Now the arm is from the Thundra as well, and I did repaint that. This right arm. The left arm, though, let's move this one out the way and move on. The left arm actually is from Proxima Midnight, but the MCU version. So this one is the Proxima Midnight that was a part of the Build-A-Figure for, the Infinity War Thanos? Yeah, so that's the same that had the Songbird, and it had Iron Man, and whoever else was in that pack. That wave. I don't quite remember, but this is that version, and I just had the idea because, comic book Proxima has one big arm, one little arm, one covered up in armor and the other one just a regular arm. And she had kind of the same thing. So I just painted it all gold, and I think it looks really nice. What's cool about this is that it is double jointed, so you can get this to bend quite a bit inside, right? It looks good. So all that's painted. I did have some issues with the pins. I think I might have put them in wrong, but you know, overall it's gonna work just fine. I don't really care. Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, that arm is from there. And then this is now fodder for me, but I did buy another Proxima, the Children of Thanos wave, that box set, that Amazon box set of Children of Thanos that has the updated face for movie Proxima. I bought that to replace this one. So this one's just going to be fodder. I'll probably use these feet for Kyoshi whenever I get to Kyoshi. And I don't know what to do with the rest of her. But that's that. So this just some sculpt on her chest, and this spear came from the Build-A-Figure Odin. So from also way back when, I actually have my Odin displayed as King Thor as opposed to Odin, so I just had an extra spear, and maybe I'll regret that one day, but right now I gave it to Proxima, and I think it works just fine for her, and it does fit in her hand quite well. Other than that, we've got some custom sculpting on the head. So the head is from the Valkyrie figure that I was just talking about. So I ripped the hair off of that. It took a very long time, and my hands are still swollen kind of from that. But this head is for the Valkyrie head with epoxy sculpt going around it, just covering up all of the details. Like it's just a helmet or headpiece or whatever. Just leaving the mouth open. It is a dark purple lips color, and her blue skin with these whatever headpiece here is all plastic. Specifically, it is smooth on 45D plastic, which is not available anymore, sadly. That's one thing that I learned over the course of the last month trying to get back into making customs, that I tried to order that plastic and it is not available. That resin is not available, and I'm going to have to well, I've already ordered a different brand, and hopefully when it gets here this week, test it out and see if it's as good or better than that 45D. But it is plastic. It will bend, you know, it's glued on there. I didn't want to epoxy sculpt that, because just in case she like falls over or something like that, and then, which happens a lot, especially because it's hot and, you know, people walking around and kids and dogs and stuff, my figures fall all the time. So I don't want that to break. If that was epoxy sculpt, that would absolutely break. So this being plastic is a better. I cut a pattern out. I just looked at reference images from Avengers Ultimate Alliance. I looked at some comic book stuff. I looked at Avengers Alliance, and then Ultimate Alliance 3. That's what I meant to say. And just other comics and stuff. And actually made like 3 different patterns. And this is, I think, the second pattern that I went with. And I think it turned out really nicely. I made them relatively identical. I glued them on myself. It looks pretty decent. And then the hair is from a Lady Deadpool. It's a Lady Deadpool ponytail. I had originally intended on giving her super long comic book hair, which would have been me trying to use the Medusa hair, which I did try to do that, but that hair is so thick. I tried cutting through it, actually, with the Dremel and the cutter on the Dremel. It was melting the plastic as I was cutting through, which was weird. Made a lot of apparently it smelled really bad. I didn't smell it, but even after that, just trying to cut it into a style that is similar to Proxima's hair, it was looking really ragged and really ugly, and I just didn't want to mess with it anymore, and just decided to go with this as my second option. And I think it looks good. I just wish it was fuller, and maybe I could have added like 2 Lady Deadpool ponytails, like glued a second one back there and just have them both swirl back there, the same pattern, and make them really thick. Maybe that could have worked really well, but still, it's not the worst. It's just glued on back, back there. And I have a lot of those ponytails, so I have to make use of them somehow anyway. But yeah, that's it for Proxima. I do recommend using this arm from the Infinity War Proxima, just because it just really works really well for this. One thing you can start to see right here too, one thing I don't like trying to do is adding sculpt close to where other points meet, especially from chest and stomach. But you can see going here, there has a little bit of sculpt here, but now I've got some paint rub from the inside, and then it's also happening, and I'm being transparent, up in here as well. So part of that is because of the sculpt, right? Just I added all this sculpt, so it made it a little bit thicker. I did sand the inside of that, but it doesn't matter. It was not that much clearance to begin with, just as is. And then I had to crack this torso, so putting it back together, it wasn't 100% flush. I did my best to make it as flush as possible when putting it back together, but it just left a little bit of a crack in there. I did paint on the inside of the crack, but yeah, you can see it a little bit, maybe a little bit of the crack on that side. But yeah, it just wasn't 100% flush, so that's gonna have that paint rub there. I do also have some paint rub because, again, that plastic is not very good, this old plastic, and even though I sanded it about the same I do for all my other figures, I do have like a lot of paint rub in here. Maybe you can see that. I have some other paint rub in on this as well. I had, like I said, trouble trying to get these pins in there and all of that, but you know, just word to the wise, it may not come out the way you want it, but I think this is still very passable. I still really like it. I can fix paint with that, but it's still probably gonna rub anyway, so I don't really care. These are made for me. They're not customs. They're not commissioned. So somebody's not gonna just go home with this. It's for my collection. So, and I'm not much of a poser with the figures. So once they're up there, they're up there. It's more for the collection, not for the posing. So I don't really care. And here's you can see the gap. Maybe you can see how much of a gap there is on this figure compared to that one. So there's not much of a gap on that one, and that's why it's rubbing. But yeah, that's it for Proxima. I've got some more on the way for upcoming customs. I got at least 2 more videos to work on. As far as the Black Order goes, I actually do hope to make, if not all of the Black Order comic book versions, at least I'd like to attempt Supergiant. And I'm thinking about doing Black Dwarf, a comic book version, using the Infinity War Build-A-Figure for it and just reworking it. I have most of the pieces already. I just have to decide if that's what I'm going to do, and it kind of depends on how a different Build-A-Figure that I'm working on currently, how that one's going to look, and which is not Black Dwarf, but you'll see that one hopefully soon. If that one goes well, then I'll probably attempt the Black Dwarf comic book version. But I also want to do, like I said, Supergiant, and Corvus Glaive and Ebony Maw don't really matter that much because the MCU versions don't look all that different. So we'll see. Black Swan, though. Black Swan. Anyway, see you guys next time. I got more videos on the way. Leave a comment below if you like Proxima here. If you think that this could have been better, maybe, I don't know. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.